order, and the first thing will be for Ms. Huerta to call the roll, please.
President Leah Oliveri,
Present.
Vice President Alan Wilson,
Here.
Secretary Diana Summers. Here. Scott Harris.
Here.
Jesus Jimenez is absent. Oh, he's on his way? Thanks. Okay. Robert Thames.
Present.
John Voss. Here. Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you very much. Let me mention one thing that I learned this morning, and I wanted to, because I was a big problem in this regard. If you don't have your mic on when you're speaking, it's not only that they have trouble hearing you, and Ms. Huerta does, but it's not tuned in when you're looking online or on TV. So let's try to remember to turn that thing on. With that, we have the minutes before. We have public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to give public comment? Anyone present in the audience? I have a lot of people. Okay, I don't see anybody moving forward. Ms. Huerta, do we have anybody who sent written public comments?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we have minutes and excused absences. Do I hear a motion regarding the minutes that you have before?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Voss and Mr. Harris, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And with that, Ms. Hulbert, happy to see you there. She's going to provide us with the financial reports.
Good morning, Chairman and Board. Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. So for today, we have the financial statements for the 11 months ended September 30th, 2022. The beginning fund balance from 2022 is $7.6 million. Our revenues year to date are $10.9 million, almost $11 million. Expenditures to date are $6.3 million, leaving us with an ending fund balance of $12.3. And I believe actually that should say the 12 months ended September 30th, not the 11 months ended September 30th. So these are the unaudited numbers. So there may be slight changes to them as we go into our final closeout, but we don't expect anything significant to change. And so just a reminder, we do have the fund broken down into affordable housing, economic development, and streets for those purposes. Included is a summary of expenditures for ending September 30th, 2022. As I said, we are going into our end of year closeout, so these may change slightly as we accrue items back. But we do have, this is a summary of the expenditures year to date for all three functions. So looking a little bit more closely at affordable housing, we have two commitments outstanding, the Infill Housing Incentive Program and the ALMA at Greenwood, which we do anticipate that those will be paid out during fiscal year 23. For economic development, we do have several projects, several commitments, including the Botanical Gardens, the Next Sports Company, the TAMOCC Unmanned Aircraft System Center, and small business contracts, which we will have a lot of those renewals today for the small business contracts for the calendar year and fiscal year coming up.
I have a question for you.
And then our streets, we have we have the 4.1 million, which will be transferred in 20.
Ms. Hulbert, we have a question from
sorry.
Mr. Voss.
Heather, I have a question.
Yes.
It may be offline here, but whatever happened with the $3 million that we had earmarked for the courthouse restoration? We went back and reversed that, didn't we? Or did we not?
So yes, the official commitment was reversed.
Okay.
I believe that there is basically a letter of understanding, a member understanding, saying that if the project does come forward, that we would continue with that commitment, but we don't. It's not a definite commitment, so we
Okay.
do not reserve funds for that.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Is it 4 million?
I thought it was 3.
I think originally it was 3. Maybe the commitment was for 4.
Robert must have made a
going
motion to
forward.
bump it up by $1 million somewhere here and there.
If I recall correctly, it was for a time specific, and that time had lapsed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
It expired, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And the letter was not really a commitment. It was a more broad, if the right project came in, we would consider the same level of funding. It's not,
Okay.
it's not a real commitment.
Yeah.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Amy. Thank you, Heather.
Sure. And then looking at the sales tax revenue, so we did update this. There had been a request last meeting to include some of the historical collections. So we've updated this report to reflect what our historical collections were for fiscal year 2020, for fiscal year 2021, and then what our budget is for 22, what the actuals are for 22, and what our variance is. So as we've talked about before, we always are very conservative on our revenue projections. And so we did collect about over $500,000 more than what our revenue collections had been forecasted at. And so that money does come into the fund. It will sit in fund balance until it is then allocated towards a project or activity allowable within the Type B guidelines. So that concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Questions from the board? All right. Well,
Okay.
You can turn your mic on, please.
sorry, and begin presentations on various items.
All right, good afternoon. Mike Culbertson from your Corpus Christi EDC. Here with good news. We usually do this a little earlier, but I don't know, something was happening at the EDC in July and August, and I became so, I will tell you this is my fault that it's coming to you so late. First, so we're talking about the small business. We talked about this in June. I have my cast of thousands over here. You passed that in July. Thank you very much. But it needs to be actually passed. The agreements do. So we have 7 of them. We have, for just starting from the top, Del Mar CRC, which is a contract resource. We found that PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance for Government, was doing so well with small business that they wanted to try something for large companies, because we do have that in the incentive agreements through the various jurisdictions. And so we added CRC. Remember SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, was cut funding in the state 2 sessions ago, and we'd been working on trying to get those back. While we haven't been successful, they'll try again this session, but if they haven't been successful so far, they're probably not going to be successful again. And what had at one point become a temporary request is now, I think you're going to find this going forward, and I cannot impress upon you the importance of having those counselors every day, but also for COVID and for the recession that we're about to go into, or if we haven't gone into, we may go to, but technically we may look back later and not realize that we were in one, or we may have not been in one. So we will look at that. And then we have the SCORE, which does marketing for them. And if you get a chance, please go to one.
Excuse me, Mr. Culbertson. I think people are questioning because we have a number of different items. And I was just going to let Mr. Culbertson give an overview, and then we need to take each of the public hearings and each item one by one. Okay? We have to open a public hearing, but he's just going to give an overview first.
Okay, we don't have to open a public hearing like you usually do. It's just that it's on the that it's noticed in the agenda.
No, we need to open.
No, I have to have a public hearing.
All right.
Yeah.
Take them one at a time.
Yeah, he'll come back.
No, I mean his overview, one at a time.
Okay.
Just because somebody's watching it, and then when they come back to it, they may have missed
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll just start from the top
Let
then.
me
How's
start
that?
then. We're on item number 3, and
Okay.
that item is public hearing and motion approving the small business incentive agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and Del Mar College's Small Business Development Center at Del Mar for small business assistance in the amount of $150,000. This goes from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. I'll ask Mr. Culbertson to first provide some general information, and then I will formally open the public hearing.
All right. So for the Small Business Development Center, if you remember, it was probably the 2017 session that they actually got cut in funding, and it was in the budget. I mean, it just didn't make it into the budget, and so it's not going to come back. They've requested in the 19 and the 21. Of course, we have the 23 session coming up, and they will ask again. the importance of this is it takes us from 2.5 counselors to 5. And it cannot be overemphasized for small business how many cases that each one of these counselors, work through with each one of the small business going forward. It was hugely important as trying to keep small businesses afloat and to help them with some of the programs and in educating on some of the programs that they had to go through during the COVID time. And I stand here, and I have somebody from Anfarova from the Small Business Development Center answer any questions, or I will.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before I see if are there any questions from the board of Mr. Culbertson or Ann? Good. Come on up. We won't bite. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing. Are there anybody in the audience that has any comments or questions? Since it's a public hearing, it's basically a comment. I don't see anyone. With that, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion? I didn't entertain a motion.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Valls and Mr. Wilson, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 All of those, same sign. All of those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4 is a public hearing and motion approving the Small Business Administration Agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and the Del Mar College for Contract Resource Center, CRC, to provide a grant of up to $150,000, again from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And let me mention for those of you all that are listening in, we did discuss these items during the budget, and they are included in the budget with these amounts. So that's why you're probably not seeing as much questioning going on right now. With that, Mr. Culbertson.
So for this one, it's very important in that, this board, Type A and Type B, has funded PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance, which helps small business with government loans. I mean, government procurement at all levels, city, county, state, federal. And it went so well that we, as the EDC, we were doing all of these large ones, Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, Vistalpina, on and on and on, that, hey, how can we get small businesses into that? And Del Mar came to us and said, well, we could do something like PTAC, but do it on the large production side. And so that's what we have done. We asked you for that, and this board has approved it in the past. And Ann and their group set it up, and it's just moving along. And I think it's just one of these things, one of these programs that you just have to do, constantly and keep it up, so that small business can take advantage of these larger ones. Because just as it becomes difficult to be qualified in the government sphere, it becomes quite difficult to qualify in the large company sphere. Not only that, there is no. A lot of times they are finding that procurement is not here. It's not local. It's somewhere else. So the importance of getting them in to these companies as we bring them here, and you're like, well, that sounds good. We've brought $56 billion to this region. So that's a huge amount. And those people, while small businesses aren't building towers and building, steam reformers or whatever, they are and can do a lot of other things that are available. And Ann and her group take care of that. So, and I stand by for any questions.
Again, do you have anything to add? Nope. She's shaking her head no, trying to figure out how to do. Okay. So this is item number 4 on our agenda. It says public hearing and motion approving a small business agreement between the corporations. And I'm going to open a public hearing on that and ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to comment. There's a lot of people in the audience, but nobody wants to comment. Okay. With that, We'll close the public.
Ms. President, I've got one question.
Oh, I'm
for you.
sorry. Mr. Harris?
So, Mike, how many small businesses have been helped through the CRC? And who have they been helped for? What big business are we connecting the small business to?
Okay, that's a good question. This past year, they worked with 84 different companies, working on doing various levels of support for them. It generally starts with an assessment when they first come in, for them to figure out where that small business is and their readiness to do business with industry. And then they start identifying areas that they need to work on, and get them ready. Some come in with an actual, they have an end industry partner in mind that they want to get in line to do business with. And basically, the staff goes through and assesses both their readiness, but also what are the processes of that entity in order for them to become a vendor for them, and help guide them down that path to from where they are to successfully becoming a vendor for them. They've most recently worked with Cheniere and Gulf Coast Growth Venture on outreach efforts on the part of those companies to connect more with area small businesses.
Does
Did
that
I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So again, I think I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
You can sort that out. I'll say Vols. Vols and Wilson. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 5 is a public hearing and motion approving the small business incentives agreements between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and Del Mar College for an internship program to support small businesses in the amount of $100,000 from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Do I see any questions? Mr. Vols?
Thank you, Madam President. Heather, I think we talked about this last time in trying to narrow the amount of the funding to match the actuals. And I think the last report that we had gotten was that, you know, they weren't near the $100,000 in internships, so we were going to try to meet the actual amount. So do we know what the most recent amount of internship spending has been?
I don't have that off the top of my head. What we were going to do, I think the discussion is that we were going to wait till, because of COVID, things had really slowed down. And so I think we had agreed to go ahead and leave the funding the same for 23 and then reassess after that as we get back into a more normal environment.
Okay.
Ms. Figueroa, do you have anything to add to that about what's happened just recently?
Sure. The internship, as it did stall somewhat during COVID, and that was obviously due to small businesses not wanting anybody in their business. You know, it was very difficult to place students. But since then, we have Del Mar, in all their wisdom, has hired a part-time program coordinator, Amy Rodriguez, who is dedicated 100% of her time to getting this back rolling again, the internship effort, and she's done a phenomenal job of getting both businesses aware of the program. She's been doing a ton of outreach to the area small businesses, so we have a lot of new businesses interested in internships. She's done a great job of reaching out to the student population, both on campuses, but also through Higher Viking, which is a program that it's a platform the college has to connect businesses and their opportunities with students who are looking. And she monitors that platform continuously to try to make those connections and say, okay, you might want to hire someone for this job. Would you consider possibly looking at an internship situation to help bridge the gap or get more students interested in your company and working there? And so that has been really successful. I think the number of actual people going through the internship program has exceeded 40 so far this year. The number of businesses, I believe, is in excess of 12, 13, 14 businesses that have been engaging. I can say there's more businesses looking than we've been able to connect students with so far. So there's definite opportunities out there, and there's businesses that need the students. in a very big way right now. So we're working more, every day to try to reach out to that student population and help connect them with these opportunities that fit with their degree plan and their career path. We don't want to put people in a position just to check a box. We want to make sure it's a meaningful experience for them as an intern in whatever business we place them in. So it's moving and it's going well.
And if you
Summers has a
remember,
question, I believe.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. If you remember, one of the things we did with the internship, and one of the things Anna and I have talked about is when we first did this way back in 2009 or 10, we actually came with the employer would pay 7.25 at plus FICA, and the grant would pay the other half, 7.25 plus FICA, their share of FICA. We lowered that because at some point, we were just paying interns too much. And if they did bring them on, they would probably get, a pay cut. And so one of the things we're looking for that we'd like to discuss here is increasing that back to 7.25, because one of their problems with students is it's easier for them now to go get another job, and they're jumping for that dollar, for that $2. And that becomes a problem, because the point of the internship at the time, and I think still, is to show businesses that we have great young people who need a job and can work for you in a full-time basis going forward. And the other part is to give our students an opportunity to learn their skill, to work in their major, and to hone how they do both soft skills and their basic skills. So that's another thing we'd like. And I did not have the agreement changed, because although they're not asking for more money grant-wise, they would like to see that. And we've been discussing that, and we wanted to bring it to you as we go forward.
So there's nothing before us today regarding a change in.
Actually, I'm asking for the change, for an amendment to the agreement.
Okay.
But I didn't want to change the agreement from the budget to here. I didn't. That would not be fair.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. Does the
Okay,
agreement increase it to 7.25?
So the agreement right now says the company pays 7.25 plus FICA, and then the grant reimburses $5 more an hour plus FICA. And that's what, when we went through the budget, that's what was in the agreement. So talking with Del Mar and with A&M on number 9, but we're not talking about that, we found that both are having difficulty because they'll get an intern, or they'll jump, or they won't even apply for the internship because of that extra $2.25.
So by approving what is before us today,
You would
the agreement,
approve it and approve an amendment?
that's what I'm going for, Amy.
Yeah.
And so the contract that's attached does not change it from the $5 to the 7.25?
That's what I didn't think
We
so,
could do
yeah.
a motion to amend. It hasn't been signed yet and hasn't gone to council yet, so we can do a motion to amend to change that from $5 to 7.25 in the contract.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about difficulty, or?
Yeah, they have had, and Amy could speak to it specifically, but she has had both, and you never know how many people just aren't applying, when they see the wage. If they can go start at McDonald's for $13 an hour, and we're advertising internships that pay $12.25, you don't know how many people aren't responding initially because of that lower wage. But then she has had people who have engaged and applied, and when they find out how much it's going to pay, they walk away. Or we've had people in the internships that would love to have stayed, but they're sometimes working 2 jobs, and their other job was paying more per hour, and they had to make a life decision for their family to say, I'm going to have to walk away from this internship because I got to put my hours over here where I'm making more.
Yeah,
So
but
all those
Okay, I'm
things
going to
are
go back to Ms. Summers. She had a question, and I think, did we get it all?
Yeah, I guess my question was, in the past, we've gotten a list of the businesses that were utilizing this program, and that was really helpful to see what industries these interns were being placed in. And I think what we've seen in the past is they were kind of concentrated in just a few industries locally. With the new outreach program, is there an emphasis on expanding into other industries that haven't maybe been served through this program previously?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Amy's been reaching out to industries across the board. And because she's doing a good job of general marketing of the program, she's getting inquiries from other areas that have not historically inquired. So those connections are starting to get made. I think we have our first intern that's actually in the process technology arena, which is a challenging one because usually that aligns with large business, not small. But I believe it's Duke Controls that has their first process technology intern as a small business and using this program.
So would it be possible to get us that list through Mr. Culbertson? And okay, thank you. Next is Mr. Wilson.
So, Madam President, if it's appropriate at this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend.
We're still in the.
No,
public hearing.
first, we have to,
We have to approve that
yeah, we have to approve it, and then we can do a motion to amend.
whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Are we still in the public hearing?
No, we closed the public hearing. We're
Okay.
under discussion on the motion. The motion, it was made and seconded that we approve the contract.
Right.
That contract does not include, it is only $5, not $7.25.
Okay, we haven't opened the public hearing.
Oh, I haven't?
I
No,
didn't
ma'am.
think so.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
We're still in discussion then. Thank you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, apologies.
So,
So,
okay, I have a question. Do you want it now or in public hearing?
you can ask now
Okay,
as a board member.
so I'm a little confused. I thought the goal of the internship program was to get students into their field to gain some experience and some insight and some networking and create relationships, not, because they can make $2 more working at a McDonald's. I doubt somebody who's going to school at A&M Corpus or at Del Mar is going to go work somewhere for $13 when they can work somewhere for $13 in their field. Am I off base here, or?
And actually, this goes, my memory isn't what it used to be, but 20 some odd years ago, when this first came about, my original understanding is that this program was devised primarily to be as an assistance to the businesses and secondarily as those connections and networking and opportunities for the students. And I think those are all still very much in play. I would like to say it should be a no-brainer for students, especially if they have a practicum that requires an internship. It shouldn't be a choice, I think, but a lot of times they still are.
Why are these kids going into this internship? For a part-time job, or to make some money in a field where they're going to learn more, they're going to create a network and enhance their skills?
No, they're going into the internship to get that experience. They're
Okay.
going into the internship to get the experience and potentially to line themselves up with a full-time job coming out the other end, which has happened actually 7 times this year.
So then why does the dollar amount make a difference? I mean, when I was in school, we didn't get paid for internships.
I would, I know you wanted to come to the EDC Manufacturing Day, and had you would know that the manufacturing guru talked about this. He said, people think that the younger generation are entitled because they want more money and they want to work less. It's not that. It's that they're really smart and they see the whole environment. So why not work for Uber Eats at $22 an hour and pick their hours instead of working $18 an hour at a trade where they could move up? There is a point in their life where they will probably do that, go back into manufacturing or into another trade so that they can do this. But most of the time when they were making the decisions, especially at Del Mar, where they're working jobs and going to school, $1 does make a difference. I don't care if you
Right.
think you're going to be an astronaut and you can work at NASA. If you have rent to make, if you have a car payment, if you have car insurance, $1 makes a difference.
I still don't, I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. With all due respect to the guru, he's not in the internship development business. Somebody in school would want to be in an internship to gain the knowledge and enhance their skill set and create a network, not to make another dollar. I mean, I'm way off then, because I didn't think that was the role, just because then we're just giving them a part-time job anywhere.
Ma'am, can you speak to in the microphone? Thanks.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand what's the goal here of the internship and how,
Okay, well,
a
let's
dollar
let her,
makes a big
let's
difference.
let her talk. You could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Dr. Leslie Mills. I'm with the Career Center at A&M Corpus Christi.
Thank you.
And so we're running into the same problem with these students. 1225 is no longer competitive, and I understand what you're saying about students who get the experience, but in the end, they do need money. I mean, groceries are going up, gas is going up. They see the value of the experience, but at the end, they also need the money. And so they are choosing jobs that are at a higher rate than these lower internships. Our load numbers have gone down this year, and we do believe it's due to these numbers. We had 53 last year businesses and 87 interns. Right now, we have 68 interns and 44 businesses. And that's not a lack of us trying, it's a lack of students applying to the positions. We were in a grant program this summer with the Higher Education Coordinating Board coming out of Austin. They set the pay that student interns should be making, that we had to minimally pay those interns at $20 an hour. We're not meeting that at $12.25. So I think the trend is, yes, that students need the experience and should value the experience, and they do. But at the end of the day, they still have bills. Many of our students are first-gen students. They are working their way through college. They don't have the support that we assume they do. And so they really need this funding. And so $2 an hour does make a difference. And they are choosing the positions where they can get $13, $15 an hour. Some of our employers have been gracious enough to offer more than the minimum wage, and we do appreciate those employers. And those are the employers who are getting their positions filled. But we do have some of our employers on our list who can't afford that. And so this is going to help benefit those small businesses as much as it's going to help benefit the students.
So then what's the rate going up to, Mike? What are you proposing?
So right now, it is $12.25, and we split FICA. It would be $14.50, and which it was before, but we lowered it.
How does that impact the budget?
They would not change their grant amount.
Okay.
So you would do fewer people, presumably, but for more money for each person.
Yes.
Is that correct? From
That's
our
correct.
money? Go ahead, Ms. Summers.
You answered one of my questions about businesses also contributing, but also, is there any information on the like how many of these internships are translating into full-time jobs afterwards?
So we do survey. I know from A&M and Corpus, we survey the employers at the end of every year, and we have some of that data. Some of them are retaining into full-time positions, and some just roll into a new intern coming in. So some haven't fully turned it into a full-time position, but many do retain. We do retain the employer year after year. They're just bringing in new interns, and many do, or several have reported that they've turned them into full-time positions or added a full-time position with the help of the grant.
Oh, go ahead.
Historically, you'll find Del Mar, because, they're 2 years as opposed to A&M, create more full-time positions.
Okay. And is there any focus on, are there some employers that are just looking for interns and it's interns year over year and not creating any full-time positions? Or is there an emphasis on those businesses that are creating full-time positions?
So our students, or our numbers in 2021, we had 12 part-time jobs that were created and 3 full-time jobs out of our 53 employers. So some of them are translating into positions. I think there's maybe a handful who maybe don't intend on ever hiring on another full-time person and maybe just use the internship piece to build what they need at that moment and to be that mentor and guide for that student. But we do have many who are looking at growing their businesses.
Thank you.
Going back, since we really are on Del Mar, we'll get back to you and a university program, but anything to add to that in terms of y'all's experience about them going on into full-time employment?
Yes, so far this year, our program has created 7 full-time jobs. And as a percentage, I'm not sure what that equates to. I'd have to get with Amy on that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
We have.
Is that after graduation?
Yes, after graduation.
We have we haven't had this problem, for a couple of years because of COVID, but when we had more businesses apply than we had slots, those who did not create full-time jobs would drop off, and then, especially if there were new ones coming on, she would bring those on.
Okay, so there is an emphasis on
Yes.
full-time job creators.
That's correct.
I'll just mention here as somebody that hired interns. In some cases, I wanted the person to stay, but they were going to relocate to go to graduate school somewhere else. I mean, sometimes it's their decision, not the employer's decision,
Right, and maybe that some of the data that could be retained was a full-time position extended, so that we could know how many positions were actually potentially created from the program.
Okay, so back to, I need to open the public hearing, is that correct? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing on the agreement with, small business incentive agreement with the B Corporation and Del Mar College for the internship program in the amount of $100,000, which is really in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
That's correct.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to comment that hasn't? Okay, I don't see anyone. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion first to approve the agreement as it exists in the package, which
So
is $5 and $5.
Second?
JJ? Okay.
So can you
Okay, I have a
amend it,
motion
or
on
you're
the
not gonna do
floor,
that?
huh?
We're going to
Okay.
vote.
Yes, and then
Yeah,
there's an
first-
amendment.
First you do, there's a motion on the floor, right? And then I entertain a motion to amend. Is there
So
a mo-
moved.
And the
to-
amendment, go
The
ahead.
amendment is to $7.25, our share, which would be a like amount from then. So the
Plus
total,
our share of FICA.
plus
So
our
the
share. of
salary is
FICA.
$7.25 an hour, correct?
We have to approve the first one.
No, okay, she's just putting the motion on the floor, so the action, and then we're going to amend it, and then we
Then
approve
we'll
it as
vote on the
amended.
amended motion. You vote on them all.
Just included that in this motion.
No, it's cleaner if it's separate. That way the amendment is separate.
Promise. Okay.
So somebody has to accept the amendment.
So we
Right,
need
so
a-
he's
a-
made
a
the
second,
amendment.
And
Yeah,
first we'll
right.
vote on the amendment. I think Mr. Wilson and
Yes.
JJ
Okay,
seconded
second.
it. So this is a call for the motion to amend, which is $7.25 to
Mm-hmm.
change the agreement. Everything else remains the same, but it's $7.25,
Correct.
our share plus FICA from, which will mean that we will have fewer people, but the same total dollar amount. Okay, all of those in favor on the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion passes to amend. Now I'll go back to the original motion as amended, which is to approve the agreement. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And that motion passes. Thank you.
Quick question, Madam President. What was the new total combined, Mike? What was the combined new total?
Would be 450. 1450. 725 from the employer, 725 from the grant plus FICA, from your share of FICA.
Okay, just make sure I got it right.
So we pay 50% of FICA. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wear ourselves out. I'm going on to item number 6. Scott, you were very smart, or Lee was very smart to get out before we did this. Item number 6, public hearing and motion approving a small business incentive agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and Del Mar College's Procurement Technical Assistance Center, PTAC, for the small business assistance in the amount of $105,000, or not to exceed $105,000, from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Mr. Culbertson, take it away.
All right, PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance. It brings, it helps small businesses. They have an office there at SBDC right across from Ray High School, for those of you driving down Staples. And what it does is allows, if you've ever done business with the federal government, with any level of government, there are requirements, there's DUNS numbers, there's all sorts of things that you have to do to be qualified to even bid on a procurement. And Del Mar set this up a few years ago, and the whole point was to get small businesses in all levels of government have set-asides or have goals. And this helps them also. And so Del Mar, and I'll let Ann talk to you about how they actually do all this stuff, but this gets through, and what this money does is it mans it, and it helps with their training. Okay.
Okay. The Procurement Technical Assistance Center has been around for a while. Last year, they helped clients gain in excess of, they were awarded in excess of $100 million in contracts with local, state, and federal government entities. Robert Mirabal is the program manager for that program. He does a great job. But basically, they help businesses come in who have maybe never sold to a governmental entity and they don't have any idea what step one is. So they bring people in from all walks of life as far as businesses, and they can be micro enterprises all the way up to medium-sized businesses that need assistance with just what's the path forward. Usually they will have identified a target entity they want to do business with. Say they want to sell to the NAS Corpus Christi, NAS Kingsville, and they walk them backwards through that process to say, okay, here's what they require, here's what's going to be required of you, but also what are some other opportunities we can help you pursue. So as they're pursuing those government opportunities with maybe a target audience that they've identified, they can help them see other opportunities that they're now qualified to put their name in the hat for as well. They also go out and find opportunities for businesses. They're constantly canvassing for procurements that might pertain to the clientele they have in their registry, and then they help them they will review their packages for completeness. They're not going to tell them how to bid on a project, but they're going to help them make sure they have a complete proposal and help them along the way. Sometimes they get through the whole process, do the work, and then they can't get paid. Their payment is stuck somewhere in whatever government entity's process it is stuck in. And they can help them from that perspective as well, find out where it's stuck, how to get it unstuck, and make sure that they get paid at the end of the day. So they do work with businesses from one gamut to from one end to the other as far as the process of getting them connected with governmental entities and the opportunities that they can help to use to grow their business if they've not done that before.
So, any questions? I assume that even things like helping them with certification.
Yes.
Yes, all kinds
that
of
was what I was alluding
government
to, the other
certifications would be
opportunities.
done here.
Correct.
Right.
They can help them with
DBE, disadvantaged business.
the
Yeah.
alphabet soup. Whatever certification you want to name, they
Help.
either help them with directly or they can direct them to a source that will help them with those certifications.
Okay. Uh-oh, someone has appeared. Hi.
Hi, my name is Robert Mirabal. I'm the program manager for PTEC.
Welcome.
Yeah, Anna's correct. If they have any questions or needs as far as applying for actual certifications, whether it's at the local level, the state level, or the federal level, we're not a certifier, but we'll actually help them get all the eligibility, make sure they're eligible, get all the paperwork together, and actually work with them to submit it. And if there's questions during that process, we'll actually help them clarify those questions and get the package back in so that they can indeed become certified and hopefully on the road to government
Right.
contracting.
Just getting through some of those websites is a bit of a test these
Yeah,
days.
if you've heard of SAM and what's going on with SAM right
Right.
now, you're well aware
Right.
of it.
Okay, so this is item number 6, and I'd like to open the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have one?
Yeah, no question.
Go ahead.
Can you give us an idea roughly of what you're seeing the most certifications for? Is it Hub, DBE, 8A? Can you kind
Well,
of?
you know, actually, historically, in our area, the bulk of the certifications we see is Texas Hub, you know, because the city of Corpus Christi doesn't actually have one, so they rely on the state. So we see a lot of Texas Hub. Honestly, we see very little 8A certifications. There's just so much paperwork involved. But we do see a lot of Texas Hubs. We do see a lot of DBEs.
Okay.
And the rest, Hub Zone and 8A are few. But those are mostly the ones we see. We do about 2,400 hours a year of advising, and we hold about 50 training events on all things procurement throughout the year. So,
Are you familiar with the agencies, the local agencies and their minority programs?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Is the RTA still the DBE certifying agency for the area?
Yes, as a matter of fact, tomorrow we have an event across the street with the CCRTA
Okay.
on DBE outreach.
Because with the Harbor Bridge development, and, you know, those are transportation dollars, and that's where the DBE program comes into place. And I know a couple of small firms who have been able to capture some work because of their DBE certification.
Correct.
Okay. It's just interesting to know, you know, what is the concentration here of minority type businesses?
Yeah, well, as I said.
The Hub is easy.
Yeah.
I mean, the DBE is.
Yeah, The biggest certification that we see in our area because of the geographical makeup of our area is Texas Hub, probably followed by the DBE, and the federal certifications are probably lagging behind because there's 2 military installations close by, and those unfortunately are served by large prime contractors who then subcontract opportunities out to local businesses. So the local businesses don't always have to have those certifications. It's the primes that do.
Right. Yeah, but the local businesses, they help the prime to meet their
Oh, yeah, the
the
subcontracting
goal
goal,
of
yes.
the awarding agency.
Yes.
You know, I served on the Hispanic Chamber Board for a few years, and one of the challenges we had was that getting local agencies, I don't mean the state, I mean like the city, the county, the port, the RTA, to really create a minority designation so that if a small business was applying for a bid opportunity at the county, the county had a percentage, kind of like what the DBE program does. Those are federal transportation dollars, and they have a goal that the RTA because TxDOT's state, but local, the RTA would need to meet. And you could have the prime, but then they would have to have, the subs underneath it to help achieve that goal. But I don't know what the local agencies are doing to establish that. Like, does the city have a goal for minority-owned businesses? Does the port have a goal for minority-owned businesses? I know the RTA does when it comes to federal
I don't know if
dollars.
they have an actual percentage, but I do know that there are initiatives that have begun. But I believe the city of Corpus Christi recently started a buy local initiative. I believe the port is in the process of
We have
doing
the city
same thing.
manager here. Let's ask him.
Yeah.
I don't wanna
We
put him
happen
on
to
the
have an
spot,
expert
so-
in the room.
Yes, the city's here. So City Council did approve policy recently that gives preference points to local businesses.
Right.
Is that on every procurement, or-
No, for certain procurements. So for professional services and I believe engineering services, goods is a phase 2 that we'll be looking at this year.
Okay.
Yeah, goods, tangible products would be.
And contracting?
Contracting, that those are in. Yeah, so contracting, professional services, engineering services, this local preference.
Okay. I mean, 5 points can make a big difference. And
Right.
I would think that, your office, would be the primary advocate for this type of program or designations throughout the local governments. Because there's no one group that takes the lead on that. And if you're out there trying to get governmental contracts for small businesses or minority businesses, then you got to know where they come from first. And I think that, we need an advocate for each of those agencies to make sure that they do have a percentage. The port just did theirs about 2 years ago. They didn't have one.
Right.
So for a small business, it's hard for them to capture work. They'd have to be a sub. It's hard for them to be prime. The city too. And 5 points can make a big difference. 3 points makes a big difference when you do the bid tabulations.
Right.
I mean, Scott knows. I mean, he, as an engineer, he's subject to bid tabs all the time. So,
Well, I will note that,
Thank
and
you.
then we probably ought to move along, but I will note that if in contracts where the city has state funding of any kind, like Texas Water Development Board funding, there is a reporting that goes back and captures hub information. So, they are aware of that being an important part of some of the funding besides just transportation-oriented funding.
yeah, but it's not necessarily included in
I know
their-
what you're saying. I'm just
in their
mentioning that
tabulations or-
it's worthwhile to get the hub for more than just transportation. That's
No,
my
no,
point.
yeah.
Okay, with that, I need to open the public hearing approving this PTAC assistance. Do I see anyone who would like to make a comment? Welcome a comment. Anybody that hasn't? I don't see any comments. Therefore, I'll close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Temez, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Wilson? All those in favor of approving $70,000 for the PTAC? $105,000? Sorry, I was giving you a cut.
I was sitting here going, "Whoa," like, wait a minute.
Would you please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's move along. 7, this is an item with a public hearing and motion approving the small business incentive agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and the Service Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE, Chapter 221, to provide a grant of $70,000.
All
And
right.
this is a fixed amount, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And SCORE is one of those great programs that just keep going. As the person who does compliance for you, for Type A, for City of Corpus Christi, for Nueces County, for San Patricio County, for San Patricio Drainage District, I do it for a lot of people, Del Mar. I will tell you that part of my compliance is I attend I try to make 3 of their lunch and learns, and people forget that we had something way back. Tom Tackley headed, as a matter of fact, and with Del Mar, a small business, and it was to bring in CEOs of small businesses. And they found that they either wouldn't finish or they wouldn't sign up because the time commitment was just too much. Now they're down to lunch and learns. We call it just-in-time learning. If you've done that for large corporations like that I've worked for, you get in there and you teach these people. You don't take time; they have to eat anyway, so you throw food at them. They can eat. With COVID, you can do it online. So that's even better. I don't have to leave my office, drive 20 minutes, sit, do something, drive 20 minutes back. I can just do all of this. And this has just been, a great program, and it just keeps expanding under Debbie Fernandez, who's, from the SBA, and now she's with SCORE. Standing by to answer any questions, and
Hello, Ms. Hernandez.
Debbie's here also.
Welcome. Do you have any additional comments you'd like to add?
Sure she does. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie
afternoon.
Fernandez. I'm the chapter chair for SCORE Corpus Christi. We are a volunteer group of business-minded men and women from the community. We volunteer our business knowledge to startup small businesses, the existing small businesses, and I do it with a great bunch of men and women. There's 22 in our local chapter. We do service the community well. We're always looking for new volunteers, hint, hint, because our senior businessmen and women from the area and our existing small business owners have this great knowledge to give back, and we do it at no cost. The Lunch and Learns that Mike is referring to, I have Rebecca Esparza, who's my business development specialist, and she is the community advocate putting together these workshops, teaching them, partnering with my colleagues, Small Business Development Center, PTAC, CRC, Westside Business Association. We are always invited to come and speak and teach on different business expertises and topics. And we are expanding. This past fiscal year, we did 59 workshops with over 3,500 attendees. So we're reaching out to the community. COVID did teach us that webinars do work very well with Zoom. We all learned the technology and the lingo, but we're slowly getting back to in-person workshops, and that's where the Lunch and Learns do. It's an incentive. They like to eat. They come in for the lunch. They get a great topic. And in turn, the small business, that the caterers are our local small businesses. That's who we
Great.
use.
Thank you. Mr. Voss, do you have a question, or is
I
that?
don't. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, okay.
I'm sorry, it's still on. Thank you.
Ms. Summers?
What is the average cost to attend one of these?
No cost.
No cost, so they're free to
Free.
all attendees?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm waiting for Mr. Gomez to ask if there's any way maybe we could get notices, add to your distribution list, if anybody on the board would like to join in. Nope? Nope, okay. Never mind.
I tried.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing approving the Small Business Incentive Agreement on SCORE with the Service Corporation, and the Type B in the amount of $70,000. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this or in the audience? I see no hands, no walks. Okay, with that, I'll close the public meeting, and I would, public hearing, and I would entertain a motion to approve
moved.
the contract. Mr. Vols, Mr. Temez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, number 8 is, we got 2 more. Public hearing and motion approving the Small Business Incentive Agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and the LIFT Fund for a loan buy-down program in the amount of not to exceed $100,000 from October 1st, 2022. Note that this is a different time period through September 30th, 2023. I assume this has to do with LIFT's
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
fiscal
I
year.
had this as number 3 because we could finish it and then, I'll go have drinks after this. But so let me tell you, so LIFT Fund has this board, whether it's type A or type B, has supported LIFT Fund. And LIFT Fund is a micro lender. Companies come in, they're small, they've used up all their credit cards and families, and now, they need to do it. But they're having difficulty because they either don't have the credit score, or they don't have the history, and I'll let Laura speak to that in a second. And so these are micro lenders, and in fact, after COVID, if you remember, well, you probably, I don't know if you remember, so with COVID, we were doing grants, the city gave grants, and part of the repayment on the tranches were to go into essentially a forever loan fund. The grant pays down the interest. It doesn't give the loan or whatever. That is at risk through LIFT Fund. And they've done quite well here. What we would like to look at is this. So right now, you buy down, the grant can be used to buy down from 7.5%, right? Yes, 7.5%. And so depending on where you are on the risk scale, it buys it down. LIFT Fund approached me a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, asking if they could buy down even further. Now, I will tell you, if you were to buy it down to 0, for example, really the only problem that we would have as you would have as a board is that, that's used for the interest. And the loan would be theirs if, for example, they were defaulted. So that is one thing that they were asking for. And as a CPA and something like this, I will tell you, I like the buy down, and the reason why, a percentage, and the reason why is this. And we disagree, so, don't worry. We'll make up after this, we'll be fine. But it keeps the risk, essentially monetized. So if I'm sitting here at 18% and she's at 12, and you buy down, and I go down to 10.5, and she goes down, actually there's a minimum of 5 that she can go down to. She sticks there. We've kept that risk in, that I'm a riskier loan. And so I like that better. There's another part that goes in, and it is a request, and just for a discussion item, is one of the requirements in the agreement is that the applicant be turned down by a bank. Now, there's I'd spoken to some bankers, and, first off, right, if you fill out a loan application, the bank has 30 days to give you a decision, right? So, is that really a long time or long enough? And I know that, you're saying, yeah, but you put it in and they ask you for something else and you put it in, so that 30 days can go a long way. But if you've seen their underwriting, it is just as thorough as a bank. The loan cannot be bought down past $75,000. So if you have a loan for $75,000 under the current agreement, and the agreement that's in here, you could buy it down, and it would essentially be 17.5. If you borrowed $100,000, you could only buy it down by that 17.5, no matter what. That is a cap. So I'll let Laura talk a little bit about their successes, and it has been a success. Due to moving from type A to type B, we actually lowered theirs from the usual 100 down to 49.3, and that was really a budget plug. But they had a lot of federal programs, and all those programs are going away. So, Laura?
So good afternoon. I'm Laura Leal Estrada. I'm the Market Manager, Business Development Officer for LIFT Fund. And Lift Fund is headquartered in San Antonio, Texas, for those of you who are not familiar with us. So when the clients come to me, they have already been declined by a bank, mainly because they're startups. A lot of them are startup clients. Mike talked about the capacity or in credit. When they come to me, the bankers are telling them no in a very nice way. They're just saying, you started your business, you're less than 2 years old, and unfortunately, we need 2 full years of tax returns in order for us to be able to look at your business. So they've essentially been given a nice no. So immediately, they'll let them know of Lift Fund. Sometimes I get a call, sometimes not. But the clients are coming to see me, and at this point, they're embarrassed, they're uncomfortable, and they're having to go through this same obligation of sharing a lot of information with me, personal, and they have no relationship with me. I always say I have to build a relationship in 10 minutes because I've got to ask a lot of good questions in order to support the client's needs for access to capital. Most of our clients have started their business because of a need. They got laid off. And so now they're having to start a business, or they're trying to buy a business that's trying to close, and they're going to lose these employees. So the employees are trying to buy the business so that they don't lose their jobs and they can continue to earn a good living for their clients. So one of the asks was to remove the request to be turned down by a bank, because I don't even think sometimes, just quite honestly, don't realize that they've been told, they don't realize they've been told no. They just said, go see Laura. And that's exactly how they say, please go see Laura. She's going to take care of you. And they don't have a lot of time to really commit themselves, the bankers being they. I'm a former banker since the early 70s, so I've seen the major shifts in the way business is being done, but the bankers do not have that luxury of time to go through this whole scenario with them as to what else they can do. So because I spend at least a minimum of 2 hours up front with clients, I can actually go through the history with them, find out why they were declined, call the banker sometimes, and get a definitive answer while the client's with me so that I can understand why are they here today. Because many times they don't know why they came to me. That's part of what I'm doing today. We are able to service most of our clients. Our average loan size is about $23,000. We're finding many of them are being declined because of capacity. We look at global capacity, so that means I'm looking at from a holistic point of view. I want to know how much money is coming into the household. Can you support yourself at home? And now can you support a new debt? So now I'm doing a debt to income ratio with them, trying to figure out where the capacity is. And if there's not capacity based on the income that they're bringing in from the business that's maybe less than 2 years old, then I'm asking a question, is there somebody in the household who can help support this and apply with you as a co-borrower, not as a co-owner of the loan? So I'm going through a lot of digging deep to try to find out how I can help them.
Appreciate your rigor. And let me
yeah.
ask a question from a banker. We're fortunate to have a banker. Do you have any thoughts on this, Mr. Wilson? We don't want to be in competition with the banks. That's not our
Not at
goal.
all. We are in partnership with banks.
So on the rate buy down, if we get to where there's more incentive to go to Lyft than to a bank, I probably wouldn't want to go that far.
That's right.
Kind of what you were saying. I'm going back and forth on the turn down thing. What's your rejection rate on loan applications? What percentage do you reject?
You know, Alan, I knew you were going to ask that question, and I don't have the right answer for you. In fact, I was scrolling through trying to see if I could find it, because in my portfolio, and I have my own separate portfolio, out of the 18 that I have right now, 4 look like they're going to get approved. 4. And that's because I haven't done any due diligence.
And how do you set the rate?
The rate is not set by your FICO score. The rate is set by the program that we're going to utilize. So if I have a program like the buy down program and they can get approved, they're going to get the rate of the buy down program. You can have a 700 score, 800 score. You can have a 588 score. If you can meet my underwriting guidelines for the amount of money you're applying for, you're going to get the 5.5% rate. If I have an 800 rate and my capacity is out of this world, the debt to income ratio is just overused, they're just not going to get it. And that's all of our programs. I think that's how we're different from the banks. The banks have a rate, and our rates are all determined by the program that we're going to use for that specific targeted audience.
So the different programs, are these risk-based rates? So higher risk, higher rate?
No. So high risk, you may have applied for 100,000, I'm going to offer you 25,000. And then we're going to have to talk about how are you going to use this 25 when you ask for 100. And so we actually have devised a tool that helps me and the customer, because a lot of times they don't know why they asked for 100. It actually breaks down, here's what I put into the deal, here's what I want to do with it, and this is what I'm expecting of Lift Fund. It's just a nice, easy Excel spreadsheet, and that has helped us analyze, do they really know what they need, why they need it? Is it a want or is it truly a need?
And I would just make one comment. You were talking about having a relationship with the bank and going to you and starting from scratch. If you're talking about a new business, you probably don't have a relationship with a bank lender because you've not borrowed anything. So the banks are kind of in the same boat that you are, you kind of start from scratch. So I just think that whatever I buy down, I support Lyft, by the way, have sent people to you.
Yes, sir, you have.
But I don't think we ought to give people incentives to go to Lyft over banks.
So that's a good point. And because of my Relationship Banking 101 back in the 70s, the first question I ask a client when they come to me, and they really shouldn't be with Lyft Fund, I'll ask, who's your banker? Do they know you're here? And I've actually sent the customers back to their banker, and with their permission, I've actually sent them an email with why I'm sending them back to the bank or credit union, because we do have credit unions now. And I will tell them why I've sent them back. And I because the client does not know what to ask for. They go through a lot of coaching with the SBDC. I'm a SCORE mentor as well. They go to SCORE, and they don't know what to ask for. So I'll go back and I'll say, here's who you're going to go see. And I actually tell them who to go see. And here's the questions you're going to tell them and ask them why they did not offer you. And sometimes I say, because we don't offer line of credits, we only offer installment. I'll say, you let them know that you should have gotten a line of credit. Your business needs this type of loan, not a loan. And ask them why they didn't offer you a line of credit. And then you come back to me if they tell you no. And so that's how I built my relationship with the bankers, because it's reciprocal. It's not one of these, you come in and I'm going to take the loan. If it does not make sense to me, and I have goals, and if it doesn't make sense to me, I won't take it. I'll actually send them right back. That way they can understand. And if they don't have a banker, and I know that that relationship is at risk, I will let the bank know you're at risk of losing this relationship. Let me tell you why, because they don't know who to go to.
So
not everybody
I have
does
a
business
question
like
here.
this.
Let me just for a second ask a
Sure.
question. Are you asking for the authority to go down to zero? I know some places, some other communities have gone all the way to zero, or?
It was an ask. I was asked to propose that to Mike, so I did ask.
Okay.
But the rate was at 5.5% that we, the typical rate since 2004.
And that's a standard, I mean, that's kind of the basic, because
In
it's
Corpus Christi,
5.5.
yeah.
Right. So that's been, so the agreement as it's written right now is you can buy down to 5.5. You have to be turned down by a bank. So either this one, or you can take a look at whether you want to be turned down from a bank, and I'm feeling no. I mean, that you need that need, because you don't want to be in competition. So now you're just talking about, do you want to buy down to 0 or 5?
I wanted to ask a second question,
Okay.
because it seems like to me that there's maybe a dollar amount. You know, is it you have been turned down by a bank for a loan of 25 or more? I mean, I can see where smaller amounts are usually a lot of times more difficult even to get from a bank, especially a new business.
Well, new businesses.
Yeah.
New businesses have trouble because in the risk arena,
Right.
banks should be less risk than Lyft, because you're dealing with people that are. Oh, Siri.
Good.
So, I mean, we're FDIC insured, regulated. You should be getting the folks that can't get it at a bank, and you're
Yes.
mentioning that. So on the risk arena or spectrum, your overall risk, credit risk, ought to be higher than what we have. So if your credit risk is higher but your rate is lower, to me, there's a disconnect.
So the question is, could you do something where you do for new businesses only in an amount not to exceed 25,000? You would not make that requirement.
Could,
That-
but you'd have to define what a new business is.
I don't know. Maybe it's impossible.
I don't know, yeah, I think we're gonna,
That's,
I
yeah,
don't
that's,
think we can
that's
do that.
You could kinda get in
financial
the
institution
weeds.
to financial institution.
You're in the weeds when you're loaning people money, so I mean.
And our model is built on risk, and
Yeah.
that is our model.
Okay.
And
I
so
was
we
just-
take risk. We're very conservative in our practices. 96% of our clients pay us back. It is known that as soon as somebody misses their first payment, they get a quick call. And that's the relationship piece of it, because, we already know who's going to be a risk. I can look at that credit behavior and I know I'm going to become good friends with Alan, within the first 6 months. My point being, it is a risk. Everything that we do. Today, I saw something in my portfolio where there are 4 charge-offs. Yet, the portfolio is going to allow me to look at a possibility of $10,000 for this business client.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead right now, and we'll get back to this when we do the motion. I'm going to open the public hearing, the item on motion approving a small business incentive agreement with the LIFT Fund. And I'm going to see if there are anybody in the audience that would like to comment. I see no one, so I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion. Again, what we have before us continues to be buy down to 7.5. Is that correct?
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
down to 5.
And it requires
5.5. Right? 5.5?
5.5, yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's 5.5.
I'm just going based on what I'm looking at, but if y'all tell me it's 5.5, I'll believe it. Okay, 5.5, and
2 of the agreement.
it does say.
It
yeah.
says 5.
Yes, I mean, if I'm looking at this.
I see
it's
page 2 of the agreement.
71
Loan
says
amount
would
plus
like to have a buy
interest
down.
to buy down to 5.5, but the memo says 5. But
Oh,
I see 5.5 in the agreement.
It's 7.5.
I
I
was
think
asking why the
what's
rate's even in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any recommendation as staff?
It is 5.5.
Okay, so it is
That's what I see.
5.5 in the agreement.
Right.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agreement, which requires 5.5 and which requires a bank to not approve to Vol. Second, Mr. Temez? All those in, I would entertain any motion to amend. Sorry.
What are they recommending? Mike, what are you recommending?
I'm gonna, since it's my last year here anyway, I'm actually fine with the way it is right now. I fear, you're not the only banker I talked to. They were kind of, and then when we started getting to the king, okay, well, what if it's below? What if it's the first
That's the
time? What if
interest
it becomes very difficult? And I really think the risk has to be there. I just think it has to be.
So the 5.5
I still like Laura.
is still well below, I mean, in a rising interest rate market, it's
It's
a pretty
great.
big, yeah, yeah.
Still pretty good, but
So-
are you coming with a recommendation?
I was coming with the hope that you would approve it at a minimum at 5.5%.
Okay, well, that's our motion already, so
Yeah.
Okay,
I stand by that.
okay. And then she was asking if we thought a bank should still have to turn down.
I do get an affidavit of bank denial if they do tell me the banker has declined them, and I do follow up with the banker.
So I'm not hearing any motion to amend. Therefore, there's a motion and a second on the floor. And
Wait, let me understand. Okay, what is it now, a motion?
the motion and the second is for the
5.5.
5.5
Okay, good.
and to continue the practice of requiring.
So as
So what are
presented.
you looking for amendment on?
I was looking if somebody
just
wanted a
if there
lower
was-
interest rate, she wanted a lower interest rate, or not to have a requirement the bank actually deny. I'm not hearing you now.
I'm good with my motion.
Okay, all those in favor of the current motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I hear none, therefore the motion appears to pass unanimously. Number 9.
All right, last one, fight team
This is a
fight.
public hearing and motion approving a small business incentive agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and Texas A&M University for the internship. I think we heard quite a bit about that before, so to move things along. You can go ahead and ask questions right now. You don't.
Because we.
No, you can ask as a board member before the public hearing. I promise.
No. Okay. No, I'm sorry.
He can give a presentation, we can ask questions before the public hearing. Do you have any questions?
I don't. I wanted to move it up to the public hearing since we've already.
Okay, then I'm gonna, if you, I misunderstood. I don't know that we need a presentation on this. Therefore, since we discussed it, I'm going to open the public hearing. Or is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion for a grant on the internship program.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion,
Hold on,
say
do we
aye.
want to make the same amendment on this one that we
Pardon?
did? Do we want to make the same amendment on this one that we did on Delmar to increase the amount to 725?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, we do.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Wait, we can't vote yet. Do you want to do this to, he wasn't quick enough, see? 450 total with FICA?
1450, yes, ma'am.
1450, sorry. So to raise it to 725, our share?
I'll make the amendment, Madam President.
Okay. Second. Okay. I'll vote on the amendment first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The amendment passes. The amended motion, I'll vote on that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Thank you. Okay, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. See you next
Thank
year.
you.
huh?
Let's, because I know we're really running draggy here. Let me just, certainly Ms. Hulbert's welcome to come. And we had some discussion last time on the issue of what were our procedures, what was everything. We had informally at times said we wanted things like Mr. Culbertson to come before us or the EDC to come before us and give us information on anything that was not sent along to us. So I want at some point for us to maybe, when we don't have all these public hearings, to have a little discussion on the current guidelines. I'd like you to take a look at those, if you would be so kind, and see if there's anything you think is missing, any questions. This was just a discussion. It was not any motion. So we can come back in a future, maybe December, to actually have a possible motion to amend the current guidelines and discuss this further. Is that good for y'all? Yeah, yeah. And she sent some more information in your packet that is sort of the legal history. There may even be more that we can send along. So I don't want to waste more time on this, but if that's okay with y'all, we'll revisit this and also think about what you as board members might want to see us take a look at in the coming year. Other ideas, things you might have picked up at TML. I know I was in the Valley and heard a lot of discussion about ring networks and community ring networks and business and community access to those. So it's kind of an interesting thing to explore.
And Madam President, one of the things that I pointed out in the presentation that got sent out, I think this morning, is that we don't really have a whole lot of detail on the other programs, the more community improvement related programs. And so if that's something that the board would want to define further, that's something that you guys should think about to bring back.
It's a good point. Yes, I know at one point we did particularly discuss, I think you were here and talked about communities that had funded neighborhood signs and entry signs for monuments and said, we don't want to go there, but I don't know that that's ever been documented in any way or agreed by the council.
When we were creating them, we kind of talked about creating guidelines, and it was sort of difficult to do that, so we put a catch-all in, and so
Right.
maybe now it's time to start thinking about
I think,
what
yeah.
you guys wanted to add in.
Thank
That's
you.
not- We just, there's kind of some detail about it in the presentation you can review and come back in December.
And the EDC, we are really pushing hard on maybe a tech fund that we reserve $400,000 to $500,000 a year that was used for that, because we have a lot of small ones that, you know, that the economic payback would not be great on. We've talked with Texas A&M University on their innovation center and things like that. We also have tech companies that are looking to use us as a test bed, and we would certainly like that. We talked a little bit about it at our board meeting, but that is one thing that we would like to think, and we'd be happy to flesh that out.
Mr. Wilson, did you have something to
I
say?
had a question for Amy. Amy, in the law, how much wiggle room does it give local communities to set guidelines? Is it kind of real broad, or are there some constraining factors that you have to stay within the border?
So the guidelines are really more limiting what's in the law than increase. So the law has
It's very broad for B.
defined what we can spend the money on, and that's in this presentation that you were handed. The guidelines are really to further define that. So like, for example, the board could fund open spaces or areas of entertainment, tourism, that sort of thing. But if we wanted to do that, we might want to define, well, we only want to do it in certain circumstances.
Yeah, I think you also sent in the packet, if you went all the way to the end, they sent some information about what had been, what the rules were under the statute, I believe. So it's very broad.
Yeah.
Mr. Voss.
I'm looking at the packet that Heather sent out, the attachment. Let me look at the title. The Corpus Christi B Corporation Guidelines and Criteria for Granting Business Incentives. It's section 2, under section 2C. I see a red line version there. Did that come from us
So
recently, or y'all?
those
or-
red lines are this is the last version that was approved by City Council, and I just didn't have it saved without red lines. So the red lines are in your current guidelines. This
They
is
are.
just how it was most recently changed.
Okay, I thought maybe that was something we were
So
considering.
last year, well, this last few months, we changed the thing about notifying the city manager getting a copy of the EDC agenda and some things like that. And I think that's what those red lines were those little tweaks.
Did we have a hand in this, Amy?
Yes?
Yes, yeah, it came through
Okay.
your board first, and then it went to City
Yeah,
Council.
because I thought that we were going to have it also come to the president of the Type A or Type B board, or Type B board. I don't see that in here.
No, we did not.
And is there a
That's-
mayoral appointee to the board? Does the mayor
The
have an
EDC
appointee?
board. To the EDC board?
Does the mayor have an appointee, or is that a
Yes,
council appointment?
The mayor has an appointee to the EDC
the
board.
council does too?
As well as the mayor serves, and
Right,
Peter
the ma-
serves as an ex officio. I
Okay.
believe.
Well, then, I missed that, because I would like a copy to come to the president of our board as well.
It does. It just
does?
doesn't necessarily come in the same time frame, but it does come to the president before it comes to the board.
Okay.
And if not, we can do that informally, absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, they have their review process that maybe
Okay.
we should stay a little bit away from until it gets reviewed, but we'll look into that. Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Anyway, I would like y'all to think, I mean, even questions like that, let's get those out on the table and have a session on that. And I know Mr. Culbertson has some additional information that went out with the election that's relevant, and it'll be a good refresher for all of us. So, do you have anything else, Mr. Wilson? Anybody? Okay, with that, certainly welcome any comments too by the city manager and the staff in that regard, if you see anything else. Mr. Zone, do you have a report?
Yeah, no big announcements today. Just welcome the new board. We look forward to working with you. We know you approved your calendar recently, so we have a good year of some economic development work to do, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I believe our meeting in December is also kind of moved up a week because of Christmas, so I'll take note of that. Instead of the 3rd, it's the 2nd week. And so, after Thanksgiving, it's the 2nd week in December as opposed to the... Oh, happy? Okay. With that, I will close the meeting, and happy Thanksgiving to you.